All right, ballers, real talk. Every NBA squad has one glaring flaw, whether it's constant injuries, brutal front office moves, or just sinking out of steam. We're going to run through all 30 teams and call out exactly what's been stopping them from snagging a ring. No BS, just the hard truths. Let's roll. The Celtics' biggest flaw this season has been their inconsistency, inefficiency, and the numbers back it up. Despite their offensive firepower, they sit just 12th in field goal percentage. They launch a high volume of threes, yet only rank 14th in three-point accuracy, making cold stretches a major issue. Turnovers have also crept up compared to last year, and the second unit's shooting struggles have led to even more empty possessions. In the paint, they haven't been dominant either, both scoring inefficiently and surrendering over 48 points per game. They're not getting to the free throw line much either, sitting 19th in attempts, which limits easy scoring opportunities. Transition defense has been another sore spot, with opponents racking up fast break points against them. Overall, their defensive rating has fallen from 2nd to 10th compared to last season. When you stack all these issues together, especially the dip in bench production, it's clear that efficiency is what's holding them back. The Mavericks' decision to trade a 25-year-old superstar like Luka made absolutely no sense. He never asked to leave, there were no warning signs, and yet they shipped him off to the Lakers for Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-rounder. Luka had just carried them to the finals the year before, and in return, they brought in a 31-year-old with a long history of injuries. The timing felt completely off, and there wasn't any clear backup plan in place. Things unraveled almost immediately as Davis got hurt in his very first game, exiting in the third quarter with a left adductor strain and hasn't been back since. Then Kyrie went down with a torn ACL the very next game, ending his season. The roster depth started crumbling fast. Meanwhile, Luka is thriving in Los Angeles, putting up huge numbers. As Dallas slid all the way down to 10th in the West, it became obvious. The gamble completely backfired, leaving the Mavericks with no stars, no identity, and a roster in pieces. The Lakers' biggest roadblock has been the Denver Nuggets, and it's been obvious every time they meet. In the 2023 Western Conference Finals, Denver completely overpowered them, sweeping the series 4-0. Nikola Jokic was unstoppable, averaging nearly 28 points, 14 rebounds, and close to 12 assists, earning the Western Conference Finals MVP in the process. Fast forward to the 2024 playoffs, and it was more of the same. Denver knocked them out again, this time 4-1 in the first round. Jokic put up another monster performance in Game 2 with a 27-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist triple-double, and Jamal Murray sealed the series with a game-winning shot in Game 5. The Lakers just haven't had an answer for them. Even during this regular season, the struggles continued. They managed to split the matchups, but Denver still outscored them overall, with Denver averaging 120.8 points to the Lakers' 112.8. The gap has been clear. The Nuggets have been the team standing in their way. The Warriors' biggest weakness has been their revolving door at the center position, and it's cost them in some of their biggest moments. For over a decade, they haven't had a true long-term answer at the 5. Early on, David Lee was forced to play center, but his defense wasn't up to par. Andrew Bogut came next and anchored their defense for a while, but injuries constantly held him back. His absence in the 2016 finals was a huge blow, especially as they got beat up on the boards. After Bogut, they patched things together with guys like Zaza Pachulia, JaVale McGee, and Kevin Looney. But none turned into a real long-term fix. They even used the second overall pick on James Wiseman, hoping he'd be the answer, but that experiment didn't pan out either. Looney has been a steady presence, but he's limited and has battled injuries of his own. Trace Jackson-Davis shows promise, but he's still developing, and Quinton Post hasn't made much of an impact yet. This year, the struggles are still there. They're 18th in points allowed and 15th in rebounds per game. While their small ball approach worked during peak years, not having a dependable big man has hurt them badly against physical teams when it mattered most. The Sixers' biggest weakness over the past 5 years has been Joel Embiid's health, and it's been the same painful pattern every season. When he's on the court, he puts up MVP-level numbers, but staying there has been the challenge. In 2021, he missed 21 games dealing with knee and facial injuries. In 2022, he stayed healthier through the regular season, but playoff injuries, a torn thumb ligament and a broken orbital bone, derailed him. In 2023, he finally won MVP, but a sprained knee slowed him down in their second-round loss to Boston. In 2024, it was another setback, tearing his meniscus, playing just 39 games, and clearly laboring through a first-round exit to the Knicks. This season, it's gotten even worse. Embiid managed only 19 games before being shut down again with knee issues. The Sixers are 23-39 without him. When he's healthy, they're a top 4 team. Without him, they fall apart. His absence drains their defense, their rebounding, and their offensive rhythm. No backup this big has come close to filling the gap. The failed attempt at building a new big three with Paul George and Tyrese Maxey just added to the frustration. In the end, everything still hinges on Embiid's ability to stay on the floor. The Knicks' defense has been their biggest weakness throughout the 2025 season. After adding Mikal Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns, expectations were sky-high, but their defensive rating slipped from 108.8 last year to 110.4 this season, dropping them to just 10th in the league when many expected them to be first. Losing Mitchell Robinson for 50 games after ankle surgery didn't help. Without him, they struggled badly in the paint, giving up 49.3 points per game, ranking 24th. Even with Robinson's return, they haven't regained the dominant form they showed last year. Opponents are converting 64.1% of their shots at the rim, a major drop-off from a season ago. Beyond the paint, the perimeter defense hasn't been much better. Teams are shooting 36.8% from deep against them and hitting over 13 threes a game. Jalen Brunson and Towns have been frequent targets in pick-and-roll situations, leading to breakdowns in their rotations. Transition defense has also been shaky, with the Knicks giving up nearly 15 fast break points a night. Despite sitting at 42-23, the defense hasn't been elite, and if they can't tighten things up, it could be the flaw that derails their playoff run. OKC, the Thunder's biggest weakness right now is their lack of veteran experience. They've put together one of the best records in the league at 58-12, but when you look closer at the roster, it's mostly young talent leading the way. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just 26, Jalen Williams is 24, and Chet Holmgren is only 23. Even Lou Dort and Ousmane Dieng are still under 27. Outside of Alex Caruso, who's 31, and Isaiah Hartenstein at 27, there isn't much veteran presence to lean on. Last year's playoffs highlighted why that matters. They entered as the top seed but got bounced in the second round by Dallas. A lot of the postmortem pointed to their inexperience in close, high-pressure moments. Regular season success is great, but the playoffs demand something different. Look at teams like the 2023 Heat with Kevin Love or the 2022 Celtics with Al Horford, seasoned veterans who helped steady their teams when things got tough. The Thunder are still working on building that. Caruso brings leadership and defensive grit, but when the stakes are highest, they could use a few more battle-tested voices to guide the way. Cavs. The Cavaliers' biggest weakness over the past decade has been the Golden State Warriors, and the rivalry has been brutal. Between 2015 and 2018, the Warriors were Cleveland's nightmare. In the 2015 finals, the Cavaliers fell 4-2. Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were both sidelined, and even with LeBron putting up 35.8 points, 13.3 rebounds, and 8.8 assists per game, they couldn't match Golden State's depth. In 2016, Cleveland pulled off the historic comeback, winning the finals 4-3 after being down 3-1. LeBron and Kyrie delivered legendary performances to break through, but that was the only time the Cavaliers got past them. In 2017, the Warriors added Kevin Durant, and it wasn't close. Golden State dominated the series 4-1, with Durant averaging 35.2 points and winning Finals MVP. The following year, it was even worse, as the Warriors swept Cleveland in 4 games, with Durant picking up another Finals MVP. After LeBron left in 2018, the Cavaliers went into a full rebuild while Golden State kept rolling. Fast forward to the 2024 season, Cleveland came out hot, starting 15-0 and even beating the Warriors 136-117 on November 8th. But no matter how far they've come, Golden State remains the opponent that's haunted them the most. The Rockets' biggest weakness this season has been their inconsistency on both ends of the floor. Early on, through the first dozen games, they showed flashes of brilliance, with their backcourt firing from 3 and their defense forcing turnovers at a league-leading clip. But by mid-season, things began to unravel. Their bench production dried up, dropping them to the bottom third in second-unit scoring. Even then, individual talent never felt in doubt. Jalen Green still averaged 21 points and 4.6 rebounds when called upon. A string of blown fourth-quarter leads in January exposed lingering chemistry issues, and a defensive lapse in March saw them surrender 120-plus points on multiple occasions. The toughest blow came in April's play-in tournament. Despite a valiant effort, late turnovers and missed open looks sealed their fate. Despite promising rookie development and occasional high-octane outings, a lack of reliable role-player contributions kept this roster from finding a true rhythm, ultimately costing them a postseason berth. The Bulls' biggest weakness since 1998 has been the aftermath of Michael Jordan's departure. After winning their sixth championship, the dynasty crumbled almost overnight. Phil Jackson wasn't brought back, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman moved on, and Jordan retired for the second time. What followed was a brutal stretch. During the lockout-shortened 1999 season, they managed just 13 wins, one of the worst marks in franchise history. Between 1998 and 2004, the Bulls missed the playoffs 6 straight years. Draft picks like Elton Brand in 1999 and Tyson Chandler in 2001 offered glimpses of hope, but it wasn't enough to spark a real turnaround right away. They finally got back to the postseason in 2005, led by a new young core, and the Derrick Rose era reignited true excitement. Rose won MVP in 2011, but injuries tragically derailed their championship hopes. Since 2015, it's been a cycle of mediocrity. A few playoff appearances, but no deep runs. At 30-40 this season, sitting 10th in the East, the struggles continue. Still, despite all the ups and downs, the Bulls remain one of the most iconic and recognizable franchises in the world. The Timberwolves' biggest weakness over the past few decades has been finding a steady, long-term point guard. It looked like they might have their answer when Ricky Rubio arrived in 2011, but injuries and his eventual trade in 2017 ended that hope. After Rubio, the search continued. Chris Dunn and Tyus Jones never fully developed, and while Jeff Teague brought some stability, he was inconsistent when it mattered most. D'Angelo Russell added scoring punch, but struggled with efficiency and defense. They finally found some stability with Mike Conley in 2023, helping guide the team to a 56-26 record. But Conley is now 37, and signs of decline are setting in. He's averaging just 10 points and under 5 assists this season. Monty Morris was supposed to add depth, but injuries have kept him sidelined. They drafted Rob Dillingham with hopes for the future, but he's still a work in progress. Without a true floor general, the offense leans heavily on Anthony Edwards, who's more of a pure scorer than a facilitator. It shows late in games where they rank 15th in fourth-quarter scoring. As good as their regular season has been, the uncertainty at point guard remains their biggest vulnerability heading into the playoffs. The Grizzlies' biggest weakness has been finishing the job, both in the grit and grind era and now in the Ja Morant era. From 2010 to 2017, they made 7 straight playoff appearances, but never broke through to the NBA Finals. Their 2013 run to the Western Conference Finals ended in a sweep at the hands of the Spurs. While their physical defense and strong inside game powered them through the regular season, they didn't have the offensive firepower to match the league's top teams. They never ranked higher than 29th in three-pointers made during that stretch, and injuries to key players like Mike Conley and Marc Gasol, combined with missed opportunities to add scoring threats, kept them just short. Now with Morant, the story feels familiar. They won 56 games in 2022, but injuries to Morant and Desmond Bane, along with shaky clutch performances, have been major setbacks. The Grizzlies are still chasing their first finals appearance. Every era has produced tough, competitive teams, but when it's come time to get over the hump, they've fallen flat. Memphis is knocking on the door again, but history shows that being close hasn't been enough. The Nuggets' biggest weakness this season has been their bench production. They're averaging just 27.4 points per game, ranking 26th in the league, and the drop-off is clear whenever Nikola Jokic sits. Without him, they're getting outscored by 8.2 points per 100 possessions, a major red flag. Last season, they had solid bench contributors like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown, but both are gone, and their replacements haven't filled the gap. The second unit has struggled badly defending the three-point line, allowing opponents to hit 38% from deep, and their defensive rebounding numbers are near the bottom of the league. Against top teams like the Heat and Cavaliers, the bench issues have been exposed even more. Jokic is still playing at an MVP level, but the lack of scoring and defense from the second unit has dragged them down. Without more stability off the bench, this weakness could easily be what holds them back from another deep playoff run. The Clippers' biggest weakness this season has been the absence of a true prime star to lead them. At 33, Kawhi Leonard's days as a dominant two-way force seem to be behind him. James Harden is still producing with 22 points and nearly 9 assists a night. But at 35, he's not the explosive scorer he was during his Houston prime. His efficiency has dipped, and his defense has fallen off even more. With Paul George now in Philadelphia and no young player ready to step into a franchise role, the Clippers are left leaning heavily on veterans. Norman Powell leads them in scoring at 22 points per game, but he's best suited as a complementary piece, not the centerpiece of a contender. Without a true go-to superstar in his prime, the team struggles late in games. Their offensive rating in clutch situations ranks just 21st, and Harden's shooting tends to break down under pressure. Defensively, the absence of Kawhi has pulled them down to a middle-of-the-pack defense. The Heat's biggest weakness since trading Jimmy Butler has been the lack of a true 1A superstar. Butler was the heart of Miami's success, leading them to 2 NBA Finals and 3 Eastern Conference Finals between 2020 and 2023. But after the February 5th, 2025 trade that sent him to the Warriors, the Heat haven't had that same top-tier presence. Tyler Herro has stepped up, averaging 23.8 points per game, but he's not at the level Butler was in his prime. Bam Adebayo continues to contribute with 19.2 points and 10 rebounds a night, but he's never been the type to carry a team offensively. Without Butler, Miami's consistency has taken a hit. They were 25-24 before the trade, but most of those wins came against lower-tier teams, and they've gone just 4-5 against top competition since Butler's departure. Now stuck battling for a play-in spot, the Heat no longer have that go-to star who can take over late in games or carry them deep into the playoffs. For the first time in years, Miami's ceiling feels noticeably lower. The Pistons' biggest weakness over the past 15 years has simply been how bad they've been. After a dominant run making the playoffs every year from 2002 through 2008, everything collapsed. From 2009 to 2023, they missed the playoffs in 12 out of 14 seasons, and during that span, they managed just 2 winning years. In 2015, they finished 44-38 but lost in the first round, and in 2018, they barely made it at 41-41, only to be bounced again right away. Most seasons, they weren't even close to competitive. They won fewer than 30 games 10 different times across those 15 years. The 2022 season hit rock bottom, with the Pistons posting a 17-65 record, the worst in the league. Coaching changes, roster overhauls, and constant resets couldn't spark a turnaround. Finally, in 2024, things have started to shift. They sit at 39-32, with Cade Cunningham bringing real hope back to Detroit. But even with the progress, the years of failure still cast a long shadow and remain the franchise's biggest weakness. Magic. Their biggest weakness this season has been their shooting. Even with a strong defense and a much-improved record, they've struggled badly to score efficiently. They rank dead last in three-point percentage at 31.5% and 28th in makes, hitting just 11.8 threes per game. Key players like Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner have been inconsistent from deep, shooting 38.1% and 33.2% respectively. Their big free agent signing, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, hasn't lived up to expectations either, connecting on just 32% from 3. Even at the free throw line, the struggles continue. They're near the bottom of the league at 74.8%. These shooting issues have limited their offensive potential, with an offensive rating of 112.9, only good for 17th in the NBA. Despite a 41-22 record in clutch games and strong performances against top teams, their inability to knock down shots has cost them in key moments, like a 40-point blowout loss to Cleveland. Until the shooting improves, the Magic's ceiling will stay lower than their defense alone would suggest. The Bucks' biggest weakness this season has been everyone not named Giannis Antetokounmpo or Damian Lillard. Giannis is putting up 30.8 points per game, and Lillard is adding 25.8, combining for almost half of Milwaukee's total offense. The problem is, no one else has consistently stepped up. Brook Lopez, now 36, is starting to show his age, and Bobby Portis leads a second unit that ranks just 22nd in bench scoring. When Giannis and Lillard don't dominate, the Bucks struggle badly. They're just 2-5 in games where the duo scores fewer than 50 points combined. Defensively, a once-elite unit has slipped to the middle of the pack, especially after losing Drew Holiday's perimeter presence. Age and durability are growing concerns too, and there's not much reliable depth behind Lopez at center. Sitting sixth in the Eastern Conference at 36-27, the Bucks' top-heavy roster has been exposed. Without more help around their two stars, Milwaukee's chances against true contenders look slim. Pacers. This season, it has been their inconsistency. They sit at 35-28, holding sixth place in the Eastern Conference, but the record doesn't tell the full story. Offensively, they're capable of putting up big numbers, averaging 116.2 points per game, yet they've scored under 110 points in 11 games and topped 125 points 14 times. A wide gap that shows just how up and down they've been. Their three-point shooting is just as unpredictable, with nights where they shoot over 40% and others where they dip below 20%. Tyrese Halliburton's season has mirrored the team's swings. He's averaging 18.5 points and 9 assists, but his shooting numbers are down from last year, and injuries, particularly a lingering back issue, have cost him games. While the defense has improved compared to last season, they still have rough nights, giving up too many points and ranking 25th in total rebounds, leading to a lot of second-chance opportunities for opponents. Against stronger competition, their results are all over the place, sometimes pulling out close wins, other times getting blown out. With injuries continuing to pile up, inconsistency has clearly been the Pacers' biggest obstacle this season. Hornets. The Hornets' biggest weakness has been their inability to reach the playoffs. They've now missed the postseason for 8 straight years, with no real progress during that stretch. Since the 2016-2017 season, Charlotte has posted a losing record in 7 of those 8 seasons. They got close a couple of times, making the play-in tournament in 2021 and 2022, but lost both times. The rest of the years, they haven't even been competitive, winning fewer than 30 games in 4 separate seasons. Last year, they finished 27-55, and this season hasn't been much better, with the team once again near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. Even with young talent like LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller in place, the Hornets haven't been able to build a roster strong enough to make a real postseason push. The extended playoff drought has been a huge setback, robbing their young core of valuable experience and keeping them from competing for anything meaningful. The Kings' biggest weakness in their franchise history has been their failure to capture a championship during their peak in the early 2000s. From 2000 to 2004, Sacramento was one of the top teams in the league, highlighted by a 61-win season in 2002, where they finished with the NBA's best record. Led by stars like Chris Webber, Peja Stojakovic, and Doug Christie, the Kings had all the pieces in place. But despite their talent, they never made it to the NBA Finals. Their best shot came in the 2002 Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. Sacramento led the series 3-2, but dropped Game 6 in one of the most controversial games in league history. The Lakers shot 27 free throws in the fourth quarter alone, leading to widespread accusations of biased officiating. The Kings then lost Game 7 in overtime, ending their dream run. Years later, former referee Tim Donaghy alleged the game was manipulated to push the series to 7 games. After that crushing loss, the Kings never got back to the same level. Injuries and roster turnover fueled their decline. Despite having a championship-caliber team, the inability to finish the job remains the defining weakness of Sacramento's history. The Suns' biggest weakness throughout their history has been their inability to finish the job in the playoffs. Whether it was during the Steve Nash era or the Chris Paul era, they've consistently fallen just short of winning a championship. In 2005, they won 62 games but were knocked out by the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. In 2006, they lost to the Mavericks, and in 2007, they fell to the Spurs again after controversial suspensions to Amare Stoudemire and Boris Diaw. Even with one of the best offenses the league had ever seen, their defense was never quite good enough to carry them to a title. Years later, Chris Paul helped bring them back to the NBA Finals in 2021, where they took a 2-0 lead over the Bucks, only to lose 4 straight games and miss their chance. They followed that with a 64-win season in 2022, but fell in the second round to Dallas and then lost in the first round in 2023. Whether it's been injuries, defensive shortcomings, or just running into elite competition, the Suns have repeatedly been stopped just short. Winning it all has remained the one thing they've never been able to do. Spurs. The Spurs' biggest weakness this season has been father time. The franchise is stuck in the middle, with a rising young star in Victor Wembanyama and aging veterans like Chris Paul. Wembanyama, just 21, has shown flashes of brilliance, averaging 24 points, 11 rebounds, and nearly 4 blocks per game. But he's still raw, turning the ball over almost 4 times a night, and now he's sidelined for the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. On the other side, Chris Paul is 39, putting up 9 points and 8 assists per game, but far from the player he once was. His defense has slipped, and his minutes are carefully managed. The roster itself is a mix. Young pieces like Jeremy Sochan and Devin Vassell are still developing, while veterans like Paul and Harrison Barnes are well past their prime. Without Wembanyama on the floor, the Spurs have struggled to stay afloat, sitting 11th in the West with a 23-29 record. Age has left them without a clear direction. Too young to contend now, too old to fully rebuild, making it their biggest weakness this season. The Hawks' biggest weakness has been their inability to reach the NBA Finals since moving to Atlanta in 1968. Before the move, as the St. Louis Hawks, they made 4 finals appearances and won a championship in 1958. But since relocating, they've never made it back. They had a couple of close calls. In 2015, they won 60 games and grabbed the top seed in the East, only to get swept by the Cavaliers in the conference finals. Then, in 2021, they made another surprising run, with Trae Young leading the way, but they fell to the Bucks in 6 games as Milwaukee went on to win the title. Over the decades, the Hawks have run into powerhouse teams like the Celtics, Pistons, Heat, Bulls, and Cavaliers, making their path even tougher. Add in years of coaching changes, roster turnover, and missed draft picks, and progress has been hard to sustain. Their newest hope is Zachary Risha, the #1 overall pick in 2024. But until they finally break through, the long finals drought remains the defining weakness of the franchise. Toronto Raptors' biggest weakness has centered on the loss of Kawhi Leonard. After delivering Toronto's first-ever NBA title in 2019, earning Finals MVP in the process, Leonard departed for the Clippers in free agency, leaving a championship-caliber roster without its top-tier star. Although Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and OG Anunoby formed a solid supporting cast, none could assume the role of true #1 option. In 2020, the Raptors still managed 53 wins and pushed the Eastern Conference semifinals to 7 games before falling to Boston. But the fallout from Kawhi's exit became clear the following year. They slipped to 27 wins and missed the playoffs amid injuries, COVID disruptions, and a temporary home in Tampa. Meanwhile, Leonard battled his own health issues in Los Angeles, but the ripple effect in Toronto was unmistakable. Losing your best player right after a title run altered their trajectory. If Kawhi had stayed, another championship wasn't out of the question. Instead, his departure remains the franchise's defining weakness of the past several seasons. The Pelicans' biggest weakness this season has been injuries. After assembling a star-packed lineup, DeJounte Murray alongside Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and Herb Jones, expectations were sky-high. Instead, health issues wiped out their campaign. Williamson suited up for just 24 games, sidelined by a hamstring strain, back problems, and illness, and New Orleans went 7-17 without him. Murray managed only 26 appearances before a January Achilles tear ended his season. Herb Jones played just 11 games after a shoulder tear, and Ingram missed 38 contests with a high ankle sprain before being traded to Toronto in March. Trey Murphy sat out 23 games with a hamstring injury and has since suffered a torn labrum, while McCollum missed time earlier too. With their core unavailable for the majority of the year, the Pelicans limped to an 18-51 record and were officially eliminated from playoff contention months ago. The relentless injury bug has kept New Orleans from ever establishing momentum, making durability their defining weakness this season. The Jazz's biggest weakness this season has been their lack of identity. At 17-65, they're anchored to the bottom of the Western Conference with an offense that's neither exciting nor efficient. 112.8 points per game ranks 20th, and a defense that concedes 114.2 points, good for 18th. They haven't defined a tempo, style, or mindset. No clear fast break push. No lockdown defensive identity. Lauri Markkanen is putting up 23.8 points per game, but he hasn't fully embraced the franchise player mantle. The roster is a patchwork of veterans like Jordan Clarkson and youngsters such as Keontae George and Isaiah Collier, and management hasn't committed to either rebuilding or competing. Coach Will Hardy emphasizes individual development, but without a system or culture to rally around, results have been predictably poor. A 10-game losing streak and early elimination from playoff contention only underscore how adrift they are. Until Utah defines who they want to be on the court and in their long-term plan, their lack of identity will keep holding them back. The Nets' biggest weakness in franchise history stems from the 2013 trade with the Celtics. In an all-in bid for a title, Brooklyn sent multiple first-round picks and the right to swap another to Boston in exchange for aging stars Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Jason Terry, and DJ White. The plan blew up. The Nets managed just one playoff series win with Garnett and Pierce before both departed after a single season. Meanwhile, the Celtics parlayed those very picks into Jaylen Brown, 2016, and Jason Tatum, 2017, who've become all-stars and driven Boston to multiple conference finals and a championship. Stripped of their draft capital, Brooklyn lacked the assets to rebuild, plunging the franchise into years of mediocrity and making it hard to sustain contention, even after later landing stars like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That 2013 deal is still regarded as one of the worst trades in NBA history and remains the Nets' defining weakness because of just how severely it compromised their future. The Wizards' biggest weakness this season has been everything about basketball. At 1864, they're enduring a 19-game losing streak and own the worst net rating in the league at -16.1, dead last in both offensive and defensive ratings. Their offense manages just 107.8 points per game, 26th in the NBA, while their defense surrenders 123.9 points, 29th. They can't shoot, can't pass, struggle to rebound, and can't defend. Jordan Poole leads the team with 20.2 points per game, but does so on just 41.8% shooting and averages 3.2 turnovers. Rookies like Alex Sarr and Bub Carrington are overwhelmed by the NBA's speed and physicality, and there's no clear system or identity in place. They haven't beaten a single team with a winning record all season, and they're on track for one of the worst campaigns in league history. The Blazers' biggest weakness has been their inability to win a championship during Damian Lillard's era. Lillard spent 11 seasons in Portland, earned 7 All-Star selections, and carried the team to the 2019 Western Conference Finals, yet a title never materialized. Despite countless attempts to construct a true contender around his talents, management ultimately sent him to Milwaukee in 2023, closing the book on Portland's best chance at a ring since the Clyde Drexler years. Now, the franchise is stuck rebuilding, sitting at 18-50, with high-priced veterans like DeAndre Ayton and Jeremy Grant, alongside rookie Scoot Henderson failing to ignite a turnaround. Fans still debate what could have been if the Blazers had surrounded Lillard with stronger supporting pieces. That missed opportunity to secure a championship with the greatest player in team history remains their defining shortfall. And there you have it. From the Celtics struggling with efficiency to the Nets mortgaging their future, each franchise has faced its own defining hurdle. Some teams have been undone by injuries, others by ill-fated trades, shaky identities, or an inability to close out big moments. Whether it's missing a superstar, suffering through endless rebuilds, or battling father time, these weaknesses have shaped every franchise's narrative. Yet that's what makes the NBA so compelling. No matter how dominant a team appears on paper, there's always a flaw waiting to be exploited and a new story just around the corner. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe for more breakdowns of the NBA's greatest highs and toughest lows.